In today's halacha, we're going to discuss the halachic details of the statement of Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hageshem, which we began saying on Shmini Atzeres, continue saying it until the festival of Pesach. What is the request of Mashiv Haruach? As we know, there are two requests that relate to rain that we make in the davening of Shemona Esrei. One is in the brach of Mechayim Meisim, Mashvuch, Umorid Hageshem, and the second is the same Talumot Levracha, which is said in the brach of Baruch Hashem. What is the difference between the two requests? And as we know that there's a separation of time of when we begin the request. As Mashiv Haruach, we already began saying, well, the same Talumot Levracha, we will only begin at a later date in Eretz Yisrael in Zayin Mar Cheshvan and in Chutz La'aretz from the night of the 5th of December, and in certain years of a leap year, from the night of the 6th of December. So what's the difference between these two prayers? So the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter 114 in the first halacha that the request of Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hageshem is actually not a request, but rather a statement. It is a statement in which we mention the greatness of Hashem and Hashem's capabilities of bringing down waters, of bringing down rain. This is like an introductory prayer of appeasement to Hashem prior to beginning the actual request. So the actual request only takes place from Zayin Mar Cheshvan and onwards in Eretz Yisrael, when we begin saying B'sein Talavat Levracha. That's when we actually request Hashem to send down rain. But we already begin appeasing Hashem and praising Him of His greatness and His capabilities with Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hageshem starting from Shmini Atzeres. So the statement is said within the brach of Mechayim Meisim, and the reason why the sages establish this request to be said within the brach of Mechayim Meisim is because just like the resurrection, Tchias HaMeisim, is a matter of giving life to the world, so to rain, similarly, also is giving of life to the world. It gives life to the world. We begin saying it Shmini Atzeres. The Alter Rebbe explains that in truth, we should have began saying it in the beginning of the holiday of Sukkot. However, since the coming of rain during the festival of Sukkot is a bad omen, as one cannot sit in the Sukkot and fulfill the mitzvah properly, so therefore, we pushed off the statement of Mashiv Haruach until Shmini Atzeres. The statement of Mashiv Haruach is recited until Musaf of the first day of Pesach, in which case we stop saying Mashiv Haruach by Musaf and rather begin saying Moed Atol. Those that daven Nusach Ashkenaz only stop saying Mashiv Haruach by the Mincha prayer. Regarding one who forgot to say Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hageshem. So regarding this issue, there is a difference in ruling between those that daven in Nusach Sfarad or Nusach Harizal, such as the Nusach of the Alter Rebbe, the Chabad Siddur, and those that daven Nusach Ashkenaz. The basic difference is as follows. Those that daven Nusach Harizal or Nusach Sfarad, such as us, we mention during the entire year, even during the summer, before we start saying Mashiv Haruach, we say Moed Atol. Instead of Mashiv Haruach, we say Moed Atol. So, even in the event that if we forgot to say Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hageshem Shemona Esrei, since we still mentioned a praise of Hashem within that bracha of Mechayim Meisim that deals with rain, which is tol, which is dew, which is also necessary and needed for the world, therefore we fulfill our obligation. So practically anyone who davens Nusach Harizal from the Chabad Siddur, or anyone who davens Nusach Sfarad, if he forgot to say Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hageshem, he does not have to go back and he is to continue from where he is holding. In fact, he's not allowed to go back. It's a bracha levatala. And he's not allowed to repeat Shemona Esrei. Furthermore, the Alter Rebbe novelizes in Sivav, in chapter 114, Halacha 6, in parentheses, that even if he didn't yet finish the brach of Mechayim Meisim, he shouldn't go back. Meaning, if he said Moed Atol, and he continued, and then he remembered that he did not say Mashiv Umorid Hageshem, he should just continue and not go back, as it was already sufficed with the saying of Umorid Atol. This ruling of the Alter Rebbe is based on the Beis Yosef, and is actually mentioned in the Pri Megadim, with regards that the Pri Megadim himself is in doubt as to whether, in truth, one should not go back if he didn't yet finish the bracha, or whether he should go back. And the Alter Rebbe also wrote this ruling in parentheses. And thus, this shows that the Alter Rebbe himself would left in question whether one should or should not go back if he did not yet say the words Baruch Atah Hashem Mechayeh HaMesim. Regarding Nusach Ashkenaz, if someone who davens Nusach Ashkenaz forgot to say Mashiv Umorid Hageshem, so since they do not say Umorid Atol throughout the year, the halacha is that they must repeat Shemona Esrei. So wherever they remember, they have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. And if they conclude a Shemona Esrei, then they have to repeat Shemona Esrei a second time. Even if they remembered immediately after the finishing the bracha Mechayeh Mesim, but after saying the word Ata of the next bracha of Ata Kodesh, they have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. However, if they remembered immediately after saying Mechayeh Mesim before beginning the next bracha, then they are to simply say the statement of Mashiv Haruach in between Mechayeh Mesim and the beginning of Ata Kodesh. Regarding one who is in doubt if he said Mashiv Haruach, so obviously for those that daven Nusach Arizal and Sfarad, this question is irrelevant, as even if he skipped it, he does not go back. And for those that daven Nusach Ashkenaz, the ruling is that until 30 days after Shmini Atzeres, which is approximately the 22nd or 23rd of Kislev, then they have to assume that they did not say it, and therefore they are required to repeat Shemona Esrei. Regarding Saint Talmud Levracha, as we mentioned, that no one begins saying it until Zayin Mar Cheshvan, in which in Eretz Yisrael we say it, and in December 5th, 6th, in which they say it in Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora. Mention must be made that if anyone by mistake began saying Saint Talmud Levracha during Shemona Esrei before this time, then it's as if he says it in the summer, and he is required to repeat that bracha or repeat Shemona Esrei, just like one who says the same Talmud Levracha in the summer.